Well, welcome to Modeling Time with me, Brian Banna. And in this video, I'm going to go over how I'm going to set up the front headlight and the rear backup light. Now, in the last video, I was talking about I was needing to make a decision on where I wanted to put the rear backup light and all that stuff. I did a little bit of research, and it seems that there was no specific location for the backup light. It was all spec'd by the railroad, or the railroad may have moved it, or whatever. So the photographs I have two F units from the Illinois Railway Museum and one from the North Carolina Museum of Transportation. The Illinois Railway Museum is a Metra, which is an ex-Chicago Northwestern F7, and the other one is a Milwaukee Road F7. The North Carolina Museum of Transportation, the F7 is a B&O. So let me kind of give you an idea where I found these locations at on this shell here. So let me zoom in a little bit. You know what? My table's a little bit of a mess here, so let me get the camera set up over here and I'll go over that and I'll show you what I've decided to do for the location of the backup light. All right, so on the let me see, the Chicago Northwestern, or the Metra F7, the rear backup light was right up in the center above the door, and it had the lifting lugs on both sides. All of these F units had the lifting lugs, or the frame with the lifting lugs on both sides. So again, the Metra ex-Chicago Northwestern unit had the backup light centered above the door. The Milwaukee Road unit had the backup light on the, if we're looking at the back of the unit this way, so this is the right side, and the engineer's side's the right side, and the brakeman or fireman's side is the left side. It was on the left side, and if I count down 1, 2, 3, it was between the number 3 and 4. Actually, 1, 2, 3, fourth rib. It was centered on the fourth rib, so it'd be between the 3 and 4 flat spots. Now, I can't put it there simply because where the frame comes up, it comes up right about, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. It comes right up to about the middle of number 4 here. And on the B&O unit, it was centered on the door right over in this area, right here on the right side. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to put it on the right side, but up here, just high enough to clear the frame. And I've already done one, so let me show you that one. Now, this isn't glued in or anything like that, so it's just in place. So here we have it, so this is the right side, and here we have it in place. Now, like I said, this isn't glued in, it's just kind of, tension fit where it's at. Now, let me see, that's not focused. Let's see if I can get that focused. There we go. Okay, so you can see where it's at. This location puts this rear backup light at approximately the same center line as the front headlight. So that worked out well, and you can see how it is inside there. Now I've got a white piece of styrene block in there. That is so that when I'm using, let me get this out. Don't want that rolling off and sticking me in the leg. I'm using these tower LEDs. So if I put this block, this white block in there, when I push the light all the way up against it, it comes out even with or flush to the face of the backup light. So that's what I wanted. Now on the back of the backup light, I have a strip of 15 by 20 styrene, and that stands it off just enough, or rather, it stands off the light housing and the bracket just enough to clear these ribs. So that works out well. What I have to do is it's on the bottom edge and top edge, you know, flush with those edges, but I have to bevel the back side of the styrene strip to get it to fit down perfectly between the ribs. So that's the location it's going to be on all of the units. Now I've done this one. I'm going to do all except for one A unit, and then that A unit I'll do on film or on video so you can see all the tools I'm using and how I'm setting it up and such. Now what's going to happen is when these lights will not be put on until after I get this model painted. So because on the back here there's going to be barricade stripes, so the unit's painted black and then there's going to be white barricade stripes at 45 degrees coming down on each side. So I want to put those in first before I put the light in or any details on the back here. That way I don't have to mask around them. I can just put the masking right on the back, paint it, take all the masking off, and then start adding all the details. But the details will all be painted before I add them on. The light housing itself, the round part, that's going to be like an aluminum housing. The plate and everything will be painted black, but the light itself will be aluminum housing. And what I've seen is coming off the bottom, there's a piece of conduit that comes off the bottom and then into the back of the hood. So I can do whatever I want there. I could actually, if I wanted to, bring like a piece of conduit out from up here, and then down into the top, or I could do what I've seen is where it's coming off the bottom and then back in. So I'll figure out which way I want to do that. But that'll add a little bit of detail to it and such. Now for the front, what I've decided to do is I'm going to use, now I haven't found a pile light or a housing that fits the inside of this. They're all just a little too wide. So I've decided to use let me see if I can get it out of here. Of course I don't have all the stuff ready let me get. So I'm going to use a Canon & Company rear long hood light housing, and I'll shape it to fit the inside because you're not going to really see it at all, but I want some detail in there. I'll shape it to fit in the inside of here. I just need to cut the ends down or the sides down a little bit to fit in there. Like I said, you're not going to see it. I haven't tested it yet, but a good friend of mine, Craig Zini, told me that the Highliner glass fits into the Stewart shell. So I've got a glass tree or a glazing tree for each model that I'm working on. So I'll figure out which one it is he says that fits in there. And if that's true, that's perfect, because what I plan on doing, because I want these, there's going to be 2 of these tower LEDs for the 2, I don't know if you can see that, but there's 2 places for the lights. So those will go, you know, horizontal inside this housing here, and then I'll have 2 of these side by side in through there. So they'll be straight out, but holding them, they'll be straight out. So they'll come out, and I'll have a 3D printed a piece that'll fit perfectly into this housing. It'll set back about 30 thousandths from the front, and it'll make it so that these lights are perfectly centered, not center, but they're evenly spaced all the way around, so that when you look in, if you happen to look in there, because when you look in here, you can see there's a yellow dot on the for the part that lights up, so that when you look in here, you'll see these towers. You'll even be able to see the glass part. You'll see the towers, and they'll be evenly spaced all the way around. So that's my goal for having a 3D piece printed that fits perfectly in this housing. It'll have the holes for these, and it'll be deep enough so that when I glue this Canon & Company housing to the face of it, and push these LEDs into it, it'll back up against the back of this LED, so I don't have to do any trimming, and everything will be perfect, and they'll light up really, really nice. There's plenty of room underneath this nose to do that. So that's my plan for the lighting. So I've got all that taken care of. So the next step is, let me get all of the shells done, you know, get this portion done. I have to design this and get it printed and sent to me. So by the time I get this piece designed and printed and sent to me, all of these shells will be cut, and they'll have basically what you see here. Then what I'll do is, on the last A-unit shell, I will show it all on video. Okay, while I've got all of the pilot holes drilled in the back of the long hoods for the backup lights, that's all done except for one, of course. We'll do that on film. But the next step I wanted to go through was getting the front headlight set up. I originally wanted to use these parts that came with the Stewart shells and just drill a hole in the back like I did on this one. And let me get a light out. Again, I'm not all prepared. Sorry about this, guys. I know you don't like long video sections. So what I wanted to do was to drill out the back, or center drill the back, stick that in there, and then I'd have the light. But actually I want two of these side by side because I wanted to put in a light housing. Well, drilling out the center of this, you know, I can find the center on the back because there's a where the mold makes its marks, there's a circle on the back, but the diameter of the front is larger than that circle, and if you don't get it just right, you're going to be off center, which this one got off center. I don't know if you can see it, but looking at the front of it, it's a little high on center. So I was like, well, that's not going to work. So, because once the light goes on, you're not going to see that because it's just going to be a big, bright beam of light. You're not going to see it. But still, when it's not on, you'll see that like a sore thumb. So what I've done is, I'm not going to use these. I'm going to 3D print a part that fits into this opening on the inside for the headlight. It'll have the shape of a light housing on it, because the Canon & Company light housing is a little too wide to fit inside of here. I'd have to cut it down anyways. So what's going to be on the inside, you won't really see very clearly. I gotta keep this on camera. You won't be able to see really clearly anyways, or anyway. So I'm just going to build the whole piece with the light housing on it, and when I get it in, I'll clean it up, grit blast it really good, and I'll be able to put two of these tower LEDs right into it and up against it. So that leaves the question, well, what are you going to do for the glass that's on the front, or the clear glass that's on the front? Well, I have a bunch of these trees from Highliners, and there's one of them that just barely doesn't fit. What I mean by barely doesn't fit, it doesn't fit tight into here, but I want to make it so that it's flush up against the front. So this is the one on the tree that I can use. It's 33 thousandths thick, so front to back is 33 thousandths. So I figure, well, there's also something else that needed to make note of. These light tubes that are molded on here, they're not straight vertically. They follow the angle of this shell. Now, I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be, or it's just the way that the mold was made. So I have to take into account that. There's nothing I can do about that, and I'm not going to deal with it. So what I've done, since this light glass, or the housing glass, is 33 thousandths thick, I cut a piece of styrene down to 33 thousandths, and I glued it onto the front of the the light bar for the shell. So now what I can do is, after everything's all painted and put together, and before I put the front light in, of course now it's going to take some effort to put this into there because I want to show it on camera. Okay, so if I put that in there, now this has this light, or this glass piece has a little bit of a step in it on the inside, and I think it's because it's supposed to fit into a special place on the highliner shell. But if I've got the modified piece of glass in there for the Stuart Cottle shell, I can just put that in there and it's flush right up to the front. So now, before I put the light in, I can do this and then take some thinned canopy cement, and I can let it wick right in around the glass. Now, what's good about this is, and I said, it barely fits, or barely doesn't fit. The opening for here, the round opening, is 0.195 diameter. The diameter of this piece of glass is 0.1925. So you've got just a few thousandths around it, and that'll allow the canopy cement, the thinned canopy cement, to fill all that in and hold it in real nice. So that's all taken care of. I can now proceed forward with making the lighthouse, or the light piece that goes on the inside. Now I know it'll set in at least 33 thousandths, so now I know the distance I need to make the piece to press fit into here. So I've got all this room in here. Let me get a pointer. So I've got all this room inside of here. You can see there's some shields right here. You can see that. Yeah, some shields right there. So I've got all this room to design a light piece that'll fit 2 of these tower LEDs. So they'll go side by side in there like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get that designed. And when I get it in from Shapeways, we'll see how well it works. All right, so I'm figuring, why wait to the last shell to show you what's going on? Or to go through the whole process. I can do it as I go on each one of these, and I don't have to show you all of them. I just have to show you one of them. So let's get the rear lights set up. So what I got here are some rear backup lights, and I'm just going to cut the flash off. Then I'm just going to sand each edge down just a little bit, not a lot. You can see there's just a couple of passes with the sanding stick. This one's a little bit more. There's a little bit more flash on this one. That one. So what I'll do is I'll do 2 at a time. The reason I do 2 at a time, you'll see in a second. This one just has a little bit of flash on it. All right. Okay. Now, the reason I do 2 at a time, if I put one of these in the vise and I close this vise, this side, it won't hold this as well because the vise is actually going at an angle. When it closes down, it'll close this side tighter and it closes this side. So if I put two equally sized pieces in there, it'll close tight good on both of them. There we go. I'm using a ball end milling bit that is 74 thousandths diameter. It finds the concave center really nicely, and I just basically use it like a drill bit. Okay. Now I'll go cut the backs off, or cut these pins off. And there's a hole almost through it. So from the back, I'll do a little bit more drilling, but this becomes harder because it bites, and then it's really difficult to hold with your fingers. And then the corners bite into your fingers. So I'm going to go through the front here. And I'm just going to take that one out. I'm going to use the jaws of the vise to hold it while I twist it. There we go. Now I take a 75 thousandths drill bit and just clean it out. Again, I'll need to hold it in the vise. There we go. I'll just spin it around in there a little bit. That's good. On the back side, I'll sand it down. That's good. And then I'll take some chisel chisel tweezers, and I'm just going to squeeze the corners of this bracket to flatten it all out. Make sure it's all flat. They're pretty flat to begin with, but I just want to make sure they're flat all the way around. And now I'll take my, where is it? All right, there it is. I'll take my tower LED and test it out. Make sure it fits in there snug. And that's basically it. So I'll go ahead and get the rest of them done, but that's how I drill these out. I use this ball end milling bit, like a drill bit. It helps, because these light housings have a concave, circular, like ball, concave shape to them. The ball end mill finds the center really nicely and does that and cleans it out all the way through. And then I just come back with the 75 thousandths drill bit and just make sure it shapes out round nicely, because the ball end mill bit, because it's not spinning fast, it has a little bit rougher texture to the inside. But when you do the drill bit, it has more flute, or the flutes are a little bit tighter, so when you go in and just spin it around, it'll clean it out real nicely. So that takes care of that one. And now I just have to do this one and 3 more, and I'll have all of them done. Real quick little segment here, just in case anybody is interested in getting some of these tools, like this ball end mill, like I have. I get them from a place called Kodiak Cutting Tools. This one is part number 224629, and it's a .074 2 flute ball nose micro EM all tin coated bit. So it's www.kodiakcuttingtools.com. All right, the next step in this process of getting these rear lights set up is to put standoffs on them. So the standoff is going to go, I don't know if you can see that. Let me pull it like this. Okay, so you see these latches on either side of the light there? Well, the standoff is going to go on the back side parallel with those. So we'll put this into here. Don't want to close it hard on there. There we go. Just cinch it down. Okay, then I'll take a bead of CA and put it right up on the edge there. I've got a piece of 15 by 20 thousandths, so the 15 is the thickness and the 20 thousandths is the width. And I'm just going to put it right up even with the top edge. And there we go. Cut that. Turn it around. I'm going to get a bead of CA up there. Take the Don't worry about the the CA oozing out. That's no big deal. Okay, take that out. All right. Now, what we do is take these cutters and cut the bits that are hanging over the edge off. Now, I'm going to let this set up for a little bit. Let the CA cure really good. And then I got to come in and on the back side, like on this top edge and the bottom edge, I need to bevel them a little bit in order for them to fit between the ribs of the on the back of the F unit. So that's basically all I need to do to get these set up so that they'll sit up against the back of the hood properly. Okay, so this is going to be the last video in this session. I got my parts back from Shapeways, and I wanted to show you what they are and how they work. They actually worked out really, really nice. You can see them right here, but I'll show, not this one, but these two here. Excuse the mess on the bench. I'm actually working on 3 RPM models that I need to finish before the St. Louis show, so those are taking priority right now. They're various phases of GP35s, but I've done enough GP35 videos. I don't need to do any more on those, so I'm just going to see if I can blow through these and get them done. But anyways, back to the F units. Now, I don't remember if I showed the whole front headlight setup that I was going to do, but let me show you that now. I'm sorry if I'm repeating it. It'll go quickly here. So, first off, I needed to figure out what I wanted to do for the headlight. So I wanted a pile type light, side by side horizontal, and the size of the headlights that go in there, or I'm sorry, the size of, I was going to use a Canon and Company light like this one here, but it's too wide. It doesn't fit this opening. So what I did is I measured all this out, and I made this piece. Let me zoom in a little bit here. See if I can keep it in focus. Okay, so I made this piece here. Now, there's a step in it, you can see right there, maybe. There's a step right there. This is the portion that fits inside the hole. Put this here. That fits inside the hole, this portion. And where the step is, it goes up against the back so that the face of this is where I want it to be. I want it to be about 30 thousandths behind the glass that's going in here. And I think I told you I'm using, the Highliner glass for it. Now the Highliner glass just barely fits in there. And it fits really, really nice. There's less than a couple thousandths worth of clearance around it. So the canopy cement, when I thin it, it'll wick right around there and it'll hold it in, the lens in real nicely. But before I put the lens in, everything will be painted. All the wires will be hooked up, and all that good stuff. These will be painted. And let me see the back end of these. So I'm not going to push these in all the way, but these holes are tapered the same as this light here is. So I'm not going to push them all the way in, but they go in easily about that far. And then if I push them in more, they're like a press fit, so they hold in really, really nice. I put this tab, let me see right here. I put this tab on here so that I can go in from underneath with you can see it in the shell there. I can go in from underneath with tweezers, and I can line it up so that when I look down the end of it, I can see that those lights are horizontal. And there you see if I can get this in focus. Come on. There we go. There you can see the lights are in. Now, they're not glued in or anything. This housing fits snug in there, but I can wiggle and pull it out, so it's really nice. So the way that, let me pull this out. There we go. The way that this gauge I made works, this is the original part. Let me zoom back out a little bit. There we go. This is the original headlight lens for the shell, but I took a piece of 40 thousandths styrene and I cut it down to 35 thousandths. Now, what's really good about this is when I put it in here, see if I can get it in there. There we go. Now when I push it all the way up against the inside of the shell, that 35 thousandths piece I glued on there will set my lens in perfectly. So I forget the thickness of the lens, but that 35 thousandths piece pushes this lens back just far enough that I can lay that Highliner lens on there, and it's right up flush with the front, or it just sets back very, very slightly from the front of the shell, and then I can wick some canopy cement in there, and when it dries, I can just pull this piece out, and that lens will be in there. And then that'll be done after everything's painted and finished. And then I can go and I can stick this piece. Whoop. Nothing ever works perfect when you're doing it on film. So I can stick this piece in there. There we go. Oh, it just doesn't want to go. There we go. So I can stick that piece in there and get it all lined up. And then I can look down the front. You can see it's probably not lined up. Oh, it is. It's almost lined up. It just has to go down. Let's see. This side needs to go up. So it's lined up enough to show, but basically that's what it'll be like. After it's all painted and everything, there'll be the lens on the front. So that lens, where the light is just maybe 10 thousandths or 20 thousandths so behind where the lens is. So that's going to work out really nice. Now, the other thing I have to show, so that takes care of the front light and the rear light. So you've seen all of that. The next thing I have to show is this little tool I made. What this is, you'll see there's some grooves or some channels cut in the back. Well, they're not cut. This is all 3D printed. And then there's some pilot holes. Let me zoom in on this thing again. See if I can keep this in focus. No, it's not. Let's go to there. Let's get this somewhere. There's a focus here. There we go. Okay, so there's that. And then you can barely see there are some pilot holes. Now what's going to happen with those? Those will be drilled out with 20 thousandths, or not 20 thousandths, with 12 thousandths drill bit. So what this does, now real quick on the other side, you'll see that there's this pimple up at the top, and then it's long at the bottom. This is the bottom side of it. This pimple really doesn't get used, but I put it there just in case, that top one. So what this does is, if I put it, let me zoom out. If those grooves in the back line up with these these lines on the back here that stick up. I don't know what they're called. Sometimes I'm at a loss for words. And now I can tape this on here. I can now drill through there and make the drill marks for the grab irons. Now these are for straight grabs. If I do drop grabs, these holes have to go a little bit higher, because on straight grabs the bolt is at the top, so the hole for the grab iron is lower. On drop grabs, the hole or the bolt is underneath the grab iron, so the hole for the grab iron is higher, so that the bolt doesn't interfere, or these lines don't interfere with the bolt. So that worked out really good. So everything will be straight and even when I drill those out. Well, that takes care of this video. Now I really am looking forward to getting these F units going, but like I mentioned in the last clip, I have to take a little bit of a break and get these 35s done. If I can finish these 35s before the RPM meet, it means I only have one more 35 to build to get all 9 phases of or all 9 variants of the phase 1. So that's what's priority right now. But I am very excited about working on these F units. Getting these lights all sorted and how I'm going to hook them up, and how I'm going to wire them up, how I'm going to mount it all and get it all taken care of, that's all done. So from this point on, I can start doing the detail work, and once I get the detail work, it's painting and decal work, finishing, get the lights in, and they're done and ready to go. So there's really not a whole lot left to do on these F units. It's just getting to it, and like I said, got to get these 35s done. I don't want to bore you with another video of 35s. I think I've done way too many videos on 35s. So as soon as I can get back to the F units, we'll get the detail work started and get these bad boys done. I really am looking forward to getting them done. So if you made it through this one, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you saw some interesting things. And I might be putting these light housings on for the nose of the Stewart F units on my Shapeways page. I'm not sure yet. I might update them a little bit, maybe not, because when you look at them, you really can't see anything through the lens, unless you put OptiVisors on and get up close and look at them. But operationally, you're not going to see anything in there, and when the lights are on, you're definitely not going to see anything in there. So I think everything is pretty good the way it is. When I mount those lights, I'll tack them in with CA, but other than that, they hold in really, really well. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.